Mac and Mark here with you on Birds 365, and we are heading down to Florida. Yeah, he's a Florida native now, but you never take the South Philly out of a guy like Rob Maaddi. He will forever be one of ours, and he's here with us on Birds 365 the week before the season gets underway. Maaddi, man, what is going to be the story of week one in the NFL? Is it going to be the Philadelphia Eagles winning 57-0, and we all get crazy about how they should just cancel the rest of the season and give us the Lombardi Trophy, or will it be something else?
Well, if you're talking league-wide, I think the storyline for week one and really for the season is what Aaron Rodgers is going to do with the New York Jets, and they get a big, tough test the first game of the season against the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. And if you want to be the team to beat in the AFC East, you got to go through the team that's dominated that division for a few years. And it's going to be a tough AFC. It's going to be a tough division. Very interested to see what the Jets do. I think that's the big storyline if you want to stay close to home and talk about the Birds and the Patriots. Jody, I don't know about 57-0, but I do think that this one's going to be one of those games where you got an eye on the rest of the league, or if you're watching the Phils too as well, because it's not going to be at all concerning to Eagles fans. I just don't see any way with the Patriots. I know they got Bill Belichick, who, by the way, is 80-90 as a head coach without Tom Brady. He's a losing head coach without Tom Brady, but everyone's still afraid he's going to be able to put something together and prepare and have his team ready to go. I just don't see a way where the Patriots can beat the Eagles other than if the Eagles, like any team can do any given Sunday, beat themselves.
Mm-hmm. Rob, I want to ask you about something that's connected to Philadelphia, but no longer in Philadelphia, and that's Jonathan Gannon. I want to jump right to this story because it is a spicy meatball. So apparently Gannon is airing allegedly, you can call it dirty laundry. He's given the trade secrets, the company's secrets, while he was here, saying it was his idea for Nick Sirianni to give up the play calling. Jody knows, I know, you've done interviews with people where they say something that you're not expecting. You're like, oh, damn. And there's that story in The Athletic where Jonathan Gannon apparently told Nick Sirianni, we're all going to get fired. Who cares? Yeah, you got to give up the play calling. What did you make of that story, and do you buy that story of Jonathan Gannon?
I don't think that Jonathan Gannon's going to lie about something like that. I don't know how much influence he had, though, on Nick Sirianni. That could be one of those where he's thinking along those lines, and guys are getting input from each other, right? Hey, I think maybe you should do this or whatever. But I don't believe at the end of the day that Jonathan Gannon was the sole major deciding factor that Nick Sirianni gave up play calling duties. It's very interesting. Like you said, Mark, sometimes you do these interviews and somebody will say something to you. Like you can go back to, I guess it was Sean Payton and Jarrett Bell from USA Today when he went on and off on Nathaniel Hackett and what a terrible job he did. Although I think Sean might be a little bit more calculated, wanting to put more pressure or take some pressure off. But that to me was a little bit, I don't know what Jonathan Gannon's thinking other than that team's in tank mode. He realizes he might be a one and done head coach. He might be in over his head trying to rebuild a franchise right now that is slowly trying to get there. I don't think they have any concern about wins and losses this season because they know where they're headed. It's strange, but I don't feel like Jonathan Gannon is going to have that much influence on Nick Sirianni. Could have been a collective decision. I'm not sure. Strange, though.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I don't doubt that at some point he mentioned it. Do I think Sirianni went, oh, my God, why don't I make change take on my play call? No, I don't think it came down quite that way. Back to the Birds for a second, and I think you both picked up on my tongue being implanted in my cheek when I said 57-0. But I truly do believe this. We've gone almost 20 years since there's been a repeat winner of the NFC East. And there are some people out there that are touting the Dallas Cowboys as a team that can not only finish the regular season with a better record than the Eagles, but maybe even finally get back to a Super Bowl or not. I'm not buying. I'm not as high on the Cowboys as some other people are. And the key for me is Mike McCarthy doing the play calling. I think McMullen and I talk about this all the time. We both love Jeff Lurie. I think he's one of the best owners in the National Football League. but when things go awry, he seems to have to try and find a scapegoat and put it on somebody's shoulders, coaching staff, whatever. Somebody's got to pay a price when you underachieve. And guess what? They did the same thing in Dallas this year, and Kellen Moore got his neck chopped off, which I didn't think he necessarily deserved. I think he's a pretty damn good play caller. Mike McCarthy, play caller, Dallas Cowboys. How good do you think he's going to be at it this year, Rob Maaddi?
Well, Jody, good enough to go to the Super Bowl. That was my prediction. I got the Cowboys. I got the Cowboys winning.
Maaddi, man, what are you doing to us?
I got him winning the NFC East and beating the 49ers in the NFC Championship game and going to the Super Bowl. I
You're
feel
one of
like
those. I know.
I got them losing when they get there to the Bengals, but I really like the additions of Brandon Cooks, Stephon Gilmore. I look at Mozzie Smith up front. That's one of their weaknesses on the defensive line is in the interior, stopping the run. They feel like he could be a guy who solidifies that. I don't feel like Trey Lance's addition is going to put any pressure on Dak Prescott like some people think, like, hey, it's time to step up. I think Dak Prescott realizes he's got to be better than he was last year. And I'm willing to look at last year and then look at the totality of his career and say he's going to be the guy that we saw in 2021 more so than we did last year with the interceptions. Mike McCarthy, play caller, is something where, hey, we just talked about Nick Sirianni taking over the play calling or giving up the play calling. Now you got the opposite. I don't know how long it lasts. There's a ton of pressure to win in Dallas.
Who would they go to if McCarthy
and that's
struggling early? Who on that offensive staff would he lean on to say, yeah, no, I'm going to pass this off to you?
You've seen a ton of coaches who can do this, and why can't he go through the season and be able to have some success if he has a feel for what he wants to do? They've got some weapons on offense. They're counting heavily, I feel, on Tony Pollard to be that guy at running back so they can balance their offensive attack. And I felt like, as you mentioned earlier, we haven't seen a repeat winner in the NFC East since the Eagles did it 01 to 04. The Eagles were extremely healthy last year, and I'm concerned a little bit about the injury bug. It's hard to go through two seasons with the success that the Eagles had in the training room, having 22 starters healthy for the Super Bowl. So I wanted to change it up, and I didn't want to put the 49ers and Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl. So I went Dallas. I love Stephon Gilmore in the secondary. He's a guy who's been a defensive player of the year. I think he's going to help them tremendously back there. And how about them Cowboys? I could end up being completely wrong, and I certainly won't mind that.
What the hell are they putting in the water supply down there in Florida there, Rob Maaddi? We got to send you some bottles of water. That good old Schuylkill tap. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, yeah. Well, I did make my pick during the latest hurricane scare, so
nice.
that could have been part of it. As you're running out there and wind swirling, and you're trying to watch out for your house doing this and whatever's going on. So maybe I got smacked upside the head.
Maybe. But I gotta ask this. Okay, so you obviously have a high opinion of the Cowboys there. So where do the Eagles come up short in that mix? What's the Eagles' problem this season? Just not being as talented as the Cowboys in this parallel universe you've created?
No, I certainly think the Eagles they're loaded, they're stocked, they're ready to go. It's hard. We've seen teams after going to a Super Bowl and losing the Super Bowl. I know they're hungry. They're saying all the right things. We want to go back. We want to finish. I've talked to a lot of the guys. I've talked to Hurts and Reddick and DeAndre Swift, and they're like, hey, we're determined to go there and win it, unfinished business. They're all saying the right things, but there's some turnover on defense. I think we all know that. We've seen they got a new defensive coordinator. They lost some key guys. I do feel their young players are going to step up, whether it's Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, even Nolan Smith, who's like a reserve at this point, first-round pick, that's the luxury they have. Some turnover that they have there, some linebacker question marks, some safety, some concerns there. I don't think the Eagles are going to be that far behind Dallas. I think this could be a situation where both teams win 12 games or both teams are right there within a game of each other and Dallas gets the tiebreaker. I just didn't want to give it to the team back-to-back years. And my thing is they stayed so healthy last year. I'm worried about that. And if you lose somebody key on the offensive line, like as great as that offensive line was last year, they dominated. I don't think they get it. We give them a lot of credit in the Philadelphia area or those who follow the team closely. I don't know if, and I know Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey were both all pros. I don't know if people realize just how great that offensive line was last year, and they need to stay healthy because that's the key. They keep Jalen Hurts safe. They allow that run game to open up. They allow him time to throw the ball. And if they lose a key guy here or there, there's some older guys there. Jason and Lane are over 30. I don't want to jinx anybody, but that's a little bit of my concern is perhaps the injury factor sets in at some point.
Fair enough. And last year, Jalen Hurts took, for me, the biggest leap I've ever seen. A first-year quarterback starter to his second year. That's the biggest improvement I've ever seen of any quarterback ever. There isn't another step in there, is it? Can Eagle fans actually think, well, he went from here to here. Oh, he's going all the way up there. Is that too much to ask?
I think there's still another level, Jody and Mark. I think there's another level that Jalen Hurts can go to. I do a lot of interviews where people ask me around the league and in different cities, like, oh, is Jalen Hurts going to take a step back? And I tell them, what have you seen in Jalen Hurts' play, in his performance, that indicates or suggests to you that he's going to take a step back? Everything I've seen from Jalen Hurts suggests to me he's going to take a step up. So I don't know why people feel that way. They look at the season he had. Oh, he had a breakout year. I don't believe it's a fluke. I believe that this is a kid who's hungry, who's determined, who puts in the work, who's got everything he does is calculated to have success, to have long-term sustained success. And maybe his rushing totals go down a little bit this year, and his passing numbers may be similar, and then the totality of his stats don't look as good, but I think he can take a step forward still by the way he controls the game, by the way he plays, by the way he makes his reads, by the way he understands defenses, makes passes, throws, all of that stuff. We've always talked about his intangibles and the characteristics that he brings to the table. And we saw him last year be an MVP runner-up. I don't see why he shouldn't be in that conversation and why he shouldn't be a guy that this organization looks at. They paid him to be the man for the next decade. And I don't see why he can't be that guy. We go into every year thinking, all right, Jalen, just a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I still see him go on the rise.
I'll give you the reason for it, and I'll take 2 minutes here, Mark, if that's okay, and reveal something about myself. I'm a degenerate horse racing player, okay? If you have a horse who runs like, and I could take 20 minutes and explain speed figures to you as well, but if he runs a 72 and a 74 and a 69, and then all of a sudden he puts up a 95, that doesn't happen. You're showing kids as a boom, he goes through the roof. That next race out is more likely going to be somewhere in the 80s. If you take this gigantic jump, it's called a bounce. You're going to bounce back down. That's why I think people are going, can he really do it again? Every once in a while, you get the superstar horse that goes 72, 74, 95, 98, and does go up another notch. Very rarely. If Jalen Hurts does it this year, he is going to be a one-of-a-kind quarterback. That's just my horse racing analogy, and I apologize for it, but I can't help myself. I'm addicted.
He's the next Smarty Jones.
There you go. Smarty just kept getting better. Exactly right. Until he got sucked in the Belmont Stakes, and that's one of the worst days of my horse racing and sports following career, as a matter of fact, in Elmont, New York. I apologize for going off course, Mark.
Off track, maybe? Off track? No.
Of course, off track.
When I have a similar analogy, but it revolves with somebody else. So if you look at Jalen Hurts, for instance, last year, it might have been between his head and the ceiling, it might have been a mile. Now it might be like 1/8 of a mile to how as much better as he could be, but he's still, I think, going to get better this year. But what about somebody else? Is there anybody else on this roster that was here last year, Rob, that you think could take a Hertzian leap forward from last year to this year. Like, that's someone that has that high ceiling that will get a lot closer to what their potential actually is. Anybody from last year's roster on this year's roster that you think will have that big leap forward?
First, as you're asking me that question, first name that leaped in my mind is Jordan Davis. I'm looking at a guy who had tremendous potential coming in last year. They didn't need to rely on him or count on him much because of that depth up front on the defensive line. You lose Javon Hargrave. I know they brought in Jalen Carter, and now you got those a little bit of a mix of young guys in there. But I think Jordan Davis this year settled in, a full season under his belt. They do have a little change at the defensive coordinator position. Have gone through the offseason, now training camp, getting accustomed to Sean Desai and what he's bringing to the table. I can see Jordan Davis taking a step up. I don't know if it would be Hertzian levels. I don't know if there's anybody in the NFL capable of going from right there, mediocre. Is he going to be the starter? Is he going to be the answer? Oh, no, he's an MVP level guy. But I think he could take a big leap forward, which would be certainly benefit the Eagles up front and in the middle of that defense.
All right. Despite the fact that you've incorrectly projected the fact that the Cowboys are going to go by the Eagles in the NFC East, I still appreciate your opinion. And I'm going to ask you about the other team that made the playoffs in the division last year, and that was the Giants. Not only did they make the playoffs, they went in and won a road playoff game against the vastly overrated by their record Minnesota Vikings, but a road playoff win just the same. The Giants, year 2 of Brian Daboll, they are committed to their quarterback, which I'm not sure is the right play, but that's where they went. Where did the Giants go off the season that they had last year? Are they going to take a step up? How tough is this going to be for the Giants if they're the third best team in the NFC, but a damn good team at that?
Jody, I got him taking a step back and falling out of the playoffs. I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. I don't know how he's a $40 million quarterback in the NFL. I know what the market is. I do like the addition of Darren Waller, the tight end / plays like a receiver guy to help that offense and to help Daniel Jones. But I don't think this team is going to be in the Final Four. I don't think that they're going to be a serious contender for the NFC East. I think it's Eagles, Cowboys, and then Giants, and I'm separating my hands like by a foot right here because I feel that's the big gap between these teams. They could be right around 8-9 wins and not make it this season. To me, the Giants are a little bit of a product of. Now I know they went on the road, they beat the Vikings, but they're a little bit of a product of their success last year and the accolades they had last year being in New York. Like I don't understand how Brian Daboll was the coach of the year over Doug Peterson. I just don't see how he was the coach of the year other than he's in New York. He's a Giants head coach, and Dougie P was over in Jacksonville, who took over Urban Meyer's disaster and just all of a sudden won a playoff game and won a division with that team. All he does, by the way, is find a way to win no matter where he is. I do like the addition of their wide receiver, the young kid, Jalen Hyatt, who I think I had him going to the Giants in the first round. They got him a little bit later. So they got some additions. They got an opportunity to help Daniel Jones, but there's a tremendous amount of pressure on that guy, and he's, to me, not the answer for them. I think they're going to be at around 8-9 wins, and on the outside looking in, the Eagles could probably sweep this team. So can the Cowboys, and it starts. I love that Sunday night matchup, Dallas on the road in New York against the Giants. Next night, Bills, Jets there. You know what? I like it so much I might end up going to both of those games.
Ooh, very nice.
I'll just look at it. I'll just go to those games. All right, whatever. Rob, real quick, just the running back room of the Philadelphia Eagles. I know some people are concerned with who's going to be the RB1 or whatever. Are they wasting their time? The Eagles, even on their depth chart now on the website, just has everyone as a starter, which I think is hilarious. Is there a guy that you think will jump out as the number one guy on this in this Eagles running back room?
Yeah, it's a nightmare for anybody who has an Eagles running back on their fantasy roster. It's like, who do I start this week? Do I go with DeAndre Swift? Do I go with they're going to ride the hot hand, but I think DeAndre Swift is going to get the bulk of the carries initially. They certainly feel they got a ton of respect for what Kenny Gainwell can do. And you saw that he was the guy they were feeding in the Super Bowl more so than Miles Sanders. So I think those two, Rashad Penny, if he's healthy and can stay on the field, can certainly be used effectively. How do you break up those carries? What are the Eagles going to run around 20, 25 times? At least sometimes you see them, if you count Jalen's, they're over 30 rushes. I think it'll be mostly DeAndre Swift, but then they'll ride the hot guy. And then Boston Scott's always been, it's not Giants week, so maybe we can wait on him a little bit.
All right. You know that here at JAKIB Media, we do an Eagles post-game show, and Seth Joyner is a big part of that. And despite the fact that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, Seth had to endure their non-aggressive defense all last year. You know how Seth liked to see defensive play, like every other fan in Philadelphia, at least it seems that way. Part of that is safety as well. And I know you got a gig coming up with Brian Dawkins that I want to let you talk about in a second, but we have questions about the safety position. Everyone is just writing in Lance Blankenship. Oh, he's great. Lance is going to be the guy. Lance, undrafted free agent. He started 4 games last year. Now, he filled in nicely. You lose CJGJ and you think there's going to be a massive drop-off, and there wasn't. So I don't want to downplay what he did last year, but he's got all of 4 starts underneath his belt, and now he's their lead safety. How big a concern is safety for the Philadelphia Eagles? And how big a concern do you think Brian Dawkins thinks it is for safety position at the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
Yeah, when you got a guy like Brian Dawkins and you had a Hall of Famer who brings it the way he does and plays it at his level, it kind of spoils things for the rest of Eagles fans who watched him, and then anyone else who steps into that position. They had some pretty good ones too. Malcolm Jenkins was a tremendous safety.
Very true.
In Philly, helped them win a Super Bowl, but that's the one area I look at right now. You know, you're counting on Blankenship, and you see, if you look at this particular game, it's going to be actually a big test. I'm not concerned about the Patriots wide receivers at all. I think obviously you got a great tandem, a Pro Bowl tandem, and almost an all-pro tandem in Slay and Bradbury, and Maddox in the nickel, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be solid. But Mac Jones can maybe, and the Patriots can look to exploit those tight end matchups, Gesicki and Henry, against the Eagles safeties and the Eagles linebackers. So I think that'll be a tough test to see how they end up coming out of that. To me, it's a concern early in the season, and if they can figure this out, then they'll be okay there. But I would look at that as probably one of that in the linebacker situation is the top 2 concerns on the entire team, not just on the defensive side, but on the entire team. And I'm not completely sold. I got to see more out of them. I'm excited to see Christian Ellis, though. I like that kid. I love his perseverance. I love how he keeps getting cut and keeps coming back. He's one of those Philly type success stories at linebacker. Maybe he can also be a big part of this. But you mentioned Brian Dawkins. If I have a second to talk about it, I got a tremendous event coming up with B-Dawk. I've done these with him several times now, and this one's going to be in South Jersey. It's a night with Brian Dawkins. Tickets are still available at faithonthefieldShow.com/Dawkins. And September, guys, is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So B-Dawk has openly talked about what he's gone through, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and how he overcame that. So we have this event in South Jersey, in Sewell, New Jersey, on Saturday, September 16th. Eagles can beat the Vikings on Thursday night. You take Friday to recover. Saturday, you come out and you see B-Dawk. There's a VIP meet and greet. And if you've never had an opportunity to be in the room when Brian Dawkins speaks, the passion and the fire he brought to the field, he brings to that stage. And it could be impactful and life-changing for you or someone you love, anyone you know who might need to hear that message. You can reach out to me. You can check all our social media, my social media, again, faithonthefieldShow.com/Dawkins. There's a promo code for discounted tickets. Use Blessed. Dawk always says blessed by the best. If you use that Blessed, you'll get a discount tickets, and portion of the proceeds will go to Brian's Impact Foundation.
Now, where's it going to be in Sewell?
It's going to be at Fellowship Bible Church in Sewell on Saturday the 16th. The VIP, I believe, is at 5. The main event is at 6:30.
Very nice. Rob Maaddi, despite the fact that you picked the Cowboys to finish ahead of the Eagles,
How about them Cowboys?
despite the fact you got them going to the Super Bowl, We still love you just the same. Appreciate you coming on board. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks. Thanks, Maaddi, man.
You got it, my guys. Take care.
That is
See you, man.
Maaddi mistakenly picking the Cowboys to win the NFC. And this is not an Eagle thing for me, and it's not an anti-Cowboy thing for me. It's just a Jody Mack handicapping thing for me. I don't trust their head coach to call the play. Oh, okay. He'll do it for a couple of weeks and pull a Sirianni. Gannon. I don't know who made the decision. Turn it over to Brian Schottenheimer. Remember, I'm a Jet guy. I watch Brian Schottenheimer call plays for the Jets. He stinks too. So I really don't think it's going to be as close as some people. Certainly not as close as Rob Maaddi does. He's picking the Cowboys to finish ahead of the Eagles.
I don't mind the pick. He's an objective journalist, but I mind the how about them Cowboys. I mind that many times over.
That was
a troll job
done with purpose. That's exactly what it was. He was trolling Jody McDonald and Mark Farzetta. Since you're sitting in that chair, Farzetta, he was trolling you too. And our 467 viewers right now, he's trolling you too. Oh no, there's a couple of them that are Cowboy fans, and they're always on the stream as a matter. So maybe not all 460 of you. He is Mark Farzetta. I'm Jody McDonald. You know what we got to do? We got to come back, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.